Have you ever felt a silence so heavy it seemed to press down on your chest, like someone's hand was holding over your heart just to see if you'd flinch? That's exactly how the courtroom felt. Dead quiet except for the tick of a cheap clock, the shuffling of papers, and the creak of the judge's chair. There stood 17-year-old Khalil Dawson, dressed in a baggy orange jumpsuit with his wrists cuffed, staring blankly at a tile on the floor, as if looking anywhere else might shatter him completely. I've seen cold rooms before, but this one was different. It felt like the whole world was holding its breath, waiting for a punchline that never came. Khalil's mother, Naina, sat way in the back, her hands clenched tight, knuckles white, eyes swollen from crying. She looked like someone who'd emptied her tears but kept fighting anyway, calling every lawyer she could find, but no one answered. Or if they did, it was always too late or too expensive. The judge never even looked up at Khalil, just kept flipping pages with a flat voice, reading the verdict like a grocery list, guilty on all charges, life without parole. No pause, no explanation, just cold words. Naina let out a sharp sob that made the bailiff shift in his chair. She tried to stand, but her knees buckled, and she fell to the floor with no one helping, not the guards, not Khalil's own lawyer. The silence that followed was deafening. Khalil just stood there, clutching a folded, frayed sketch, one he had drawn the night before, a picture of his mom reading under their living room lamp. Now it was crumpled in his hands. The bailiff said, "Let's go." Khalil didn't resist or speak. He walked away, casting one last glance at his mom reaching for him, mouthing a prayer that went unanswered. The door clicked shut, and just like that, the court moved on to the next case, as if nothing had happened, as if Khalil had never been there. Before all this, Khalil was just a quiet kid with a sketchbook, living with his mom in a tiny, cramped apartment on Westmore Street. One bedroom, a couch, a kitchen just big enough to turn around in. They didn't have much, but it was home. Khalil never quite fit in with the crowd, but noticed the little things others missed, the way sunlight turned gold on the school walls at dusk, or a teacher's tired shoulders when the world felt heavy. He sketched it all and kept it to himself. The only place he truly felt seen was the county library, 6 blocks from school, where an ancient scanner sat behind the genealogy section. Miss Gloria, the librarian, welcomed him warmly, calling him her secret weapon, believing in him from day one. He'd scan his best drawings, naming each file carefully, saving them on a battered flash drive, dreaming of an art scholarship, a chance at a real future. When he got his recommendation letter from his English teacher, he carried it home slowly, hiding it in his sketchbook like a lucky charm. That night, he bought dinner from the corner store, sandwich for himself, strawberries. For his mom, her favorite. She smiled when he gave them to her, and he sketched her folding laundry, her furrowed brow and careful hands. It was wild how fast everything could change. Just a regular Thursday, sun warm on his back, Khalil scanning artwork, chatting with Miss Gloria, feeling hopeful. He stopped at Martinez Market for chips and chocolate strawberries, talking scholarship dreams with Mr. Martinez when suddenly police cruisers pulled up. No sirens, just force. Someone yelled on the ground. Khalil froze, hands raised, but rough. Hands grabbed him. Snacks spilled, strawberries crushed, sketchbook pages scattered in the breeze. He was slammed face first onto concrete. He tried to explain. The library, Miss Gloria, the scholarship folder, but his mom's warning echoed, "Don't argue, don't move, stay alive." So he stayed still. Officers called out matching his description, but never checked his ID or bag. "You can explain downtown," one said as they shoved him into the cruiser. He saw his sketchbook left behind on the sidewalk, the last thing before his life changed. His public defender was late, tired, barely looked at the file, and couldn't reach Miss Gloria or find witnesses. The prosecutor ignored Khalil's attempts to speak, and the judge didn't intervene. Court clerk Elena Vargas watched in silence, stomach twisting, remembering records and evidence that had mysteriously disappeared. Bail denied, sentence passed like a formality. Weeks later, locked in juvenile detention, Khalil made a single phone call to a number he memorized, the number of Luther Pryor, the U.S. Attorney General, who was shocked to hear the story of a boy sentenced to life for a crime he didn't commit. Luther dug into the case, uncovering doctored evidence and bias, and launched a secret investigation, starting with Khalil Dawson. But the truth was far bigger. Meanwhile, Elena Vargas, the quiet court clerk, knew what she had seen and what she could no longer ignore. Evidence was deleted, buried deep, and a judge who twisted the system to send Khalil away. Elena Vargas reached out to Luther's team with a message. She had the original documents, traffic camera footage, memos, that proved Judge Pierce's nephew ran the juvenile center where Khalil was sent. She whispered about threats, break-ins, and how they wanted her silent. But Khalil had seen her once, sketched her in court when no one else noticed, and now she refused to disappear. Inside the detention center, Khalil began to sketch again, portraits of fellow inmates and their stories. Marcus, the laundry guy with a poet daughter, Dasan, who sang Motown, Carlos, dreaming of his own food truck, Tony, the sci-fi reader, William, who tended plants in the yard, Miss Lavinia, a retired teacher, smuggled him real artist paper, and his cellmate Jamal passed him notes saying, "Use it before they take it." Khalil's drawings slipped out through volunteers, spreading online and then everywhere. Murals, galleries, protests, bringing their stories to light through a campaign called Inside Voices. Luther stood before the Senate armed with receipts, sentencing logs, timelines, and faces of the boys lost in the system, while Khalil's sketches illuminated the chamber. A man with poetry, a boy at a window, a father holding a toy. Outside, crowds chanted, "Justice for Khalil," and the media went wild, NPR and beyond. But for Luther, it wasn't politics, it was personal. When the appeal finally came, the courtroom was different. Arched windows flooded with sunlight. And a judge who met you eye to eye, Diana Martinez, a woman who defended the forgotten. Khalil was no longer alone. Civil rights lawyers, his mother, and Luther stood with him. Elena testified, exposing how Judge Pierce broke protocol, manipulated the case to protect his nephew, and erased evidence. When the judge asked if Khalil wanted to speak, he stood quietly but firmly. "I didn't want to be a symbol. I just wanted to make art. But if my story helps someone else, maybe it's worth it." Judge Martinez didn't hesitate. "Mr. Dawson, you are free to go." No cheers, just the sound of a mother weeping into her hands. That night, Khalil sat in his old room, the silence no longer suffocating but open, like a blank page. He pinned his sketch to the wall, ready to begin again. They tried to erase him, but the world heard. Now his voice is everywhere, and he's only just getting started. So, where's the line between justice and erasure? Was it right, wrong, or is the system itself broken? Share your thoughts, because stories like Khalil's no longer fade away. Not anymore.